Hi, welcome to Teen Pride Book Talk. My name is Lucy, and this is the program on AADL TV where each episode I take a few minutes to tell you about a young adult book that is both representative of and inclusive of folks in the LGBTQIA+ community. The book that I am going to talk about today is called The Long Run, and this is by James Acker. It was published in 2023. Before I dive into what the book is about, I want to mention that I always try to find secondary information about books when I'm going to talk about them. I like to read reviews. I like to read author interviews if possible. And with this particular book, I'm so glad that I did that, because hearing what the author had to say about why he chose to write this book really made me like the book even more. It enhanced the whole reading experience for me. James Acker said, "I always wanted to tell an unlikely senior year love story and figured I might as well set it in a world I knew. I was once a shot putter who hated shot putting, sweating my face off in New Jersey. Why not take that kid and let him fall in love?" So The Long Run is about two students in high school, Sebastian and Sandro. Sebastian Vieta is Latino and Black, and he is a rising senior. So this is a summer before senior year. He is a big track star at his high school. He's very popular, and being popular has really allowed him to get away with kind of not being that nice. That's one thing that this book does really well, is it examines the role of toxic masculinity in a place like a high school among the students, how someone like Sebastian Bash can get away with abusing his role of privilege and can get away with questionable behavior, in large part because of his popularity. When the book starts, Bash has recently broken up with his girlfriend Lucy, and he actually, we learn, is grieving the death of his mother. He lives with his stepfather, but he stays pretty distant from his stepfather. And he also remains distant from this ex-girlfriend. And in fact, he's sort of distancing himself from his best friend. He just runs. He runs and practices for track and runs and runs and runs. So the other character, Sandro Maselli, is also known as the Italian Yeti. He's very big. He's very Italian. He's got a lot of hair, and he is a shot putter. So not part of the track team, but field. And there's sort of a division between those two parts of that team. Sandro struggles with some anger issues, some really deep-seated anger issues that he's developed in large part because of the behavior of his family. His father and his brothers are oppressive, and they're insensitive, and they are very homophobic. And it turns out that Sandro is gay, and he's really concerned that his father and his brothers are going to find out about this, and it's something that he doesn't want to share with them until he's done with high school. He wants to move on, go to college, and then come out. So Sandro and Bash are very different characters, and this book shares dual points of view. We get chapters from Bash's point of view and chapters from Sandro's point of view. And though they are very different, they end up connecting and getting to know each other basically by driving around in cars and getting food, and they realize that they might have a deeper connection. And these two characters are what make this book so interesting. We learn that the ways that they seem different are really the ways in which they're perceived by other people, but they have a lot of similarities. They're both keeping a lot inside. They both have a lot going on in their families that nobody knows about. Part of their initial connection is the ability to talk to each other about things that they can't share with other people. As I said in the beginning, James Acker took his high school experience and wrote about it to create this book. He set out to write a memoir, but he decided that looking at his high school experience, he didn't really have any memories or particular things that happened that were coalescing into something that would make a good book, or into something that he felt like anyone would want to read. So what he did instead is he wrote this fiction about what could have happened, what his high school experience could have been like. And he uses his own experience, and he uses the experience of real friends and everyone that he met and everything that happened to him, but he wrote a different story. It's familiar to him, so he writes it really well, but it's different. And he splits himself essentially into these two characters. And this is why I was saying in the beginning that I love to read around books as well as read the books, because you learn things like this and it can really enhance or change the way you look at a book, and it really just gives you a deeper understanding. And so I think because this story is so close to James Acker, that is likely why these characters are such a strong part of the book and why they come off the page in the way they do as real people. This seems like authentic high school. It's not glossed over. It's not made more pretty. There are certainly darker moments. There are grittier moments. There are some explicit moments about real things happening. These characters are not perfect. They're flawed. You're not always rooting for them. But that is one of the draws of the book. You feel like you're reading a story that could plausibly happen and does happen. Because of all the parts of the characters that you see, you do get to know them. And then as a reader, you are able to connect to them in your own way and have an attachment. And so some of what they go through really kind of makes your heart ache and really can feel sad and moving. A direct quote from James Acker about the way he created this book is that I wrote about kids I wished I'd been friends with, parties I wished I hadn't skipped, meals I wished I'd eaten, conversations I wish I had. And if I couldn't put myself on the page, I'd split that angry, crying boy into Sandro and Bash, two parts of myself that never agreed, a lover and a fighter, an asshole and a crybaby. I wrote the love story I never got between two boys I always knew. If I couldn't agree on my story, I could at least tell theirs. And I know that I've reiterated this point about how James Acker created the book multiple times, but I just really like this backstory and I really love seeing how he put himself on the page. This book has a lot of themes in it, some of which are kind of heavy. It talks a lot about hiding one's authentic self, about not being able to come out. There's a lot of examples of dysfunctional families. There are characters who are pretending to be someone they're not, both for social acceptance or for feeling safe within their families. There is definitely an aspect of sexual awareness in this book and self-discovery. There's this bisexual awakening because we see that Bash, who has up to this point only ever been with girls, realizes that he has feelings for Sandro. And because of this bisexual awakening within himself, Bash also becomes really aware of the way in which his friends behave around queer people and how homophobic their talk can be and how they never really back each other up. So he starts to question the friendships that he's had forever and why he remains friends with those people. I really enjoyed reading The Long Run and hearing about how James Acker came to write it, where Sandro and Bash came from, and learning that they are these dueling parts of one person given to us as separate characters and as characters that have remained in my mind well after I finished the book. So I really recommend The Long Run by James Acker. I hope that you give it a try. Thank you for joining me.